is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Putting Together Some Things Happening on My Computer. There we go. Throws me off when sounds come out of somewhere where I'm like, where is that noise coming from? Welcome to a very special episode of Put It Together. We are celebrating Colorectal Awareness Month. And with that also comes Anal Cancer Awareness Day, which is today, Friday, March 21st. For all of you who are in the cancer community, thank you for joining us and watching. For those of you who are looking for information, this is a great stop for you. If you're going through the journey, we are with you, we support you, and we're here for whatever you need. And for those of you who are thrivers or survivors, thank you for watching the show, and please include your thoughts, comments, and questions into the chat as we go along in the conversation. I want to welcome all of our friends watching us on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you don't mind sharing this on your page so that other folks can watch along with you, that would be kind of cool. If you're watching us on YouTube, why don't you scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new episode on the show. And for those of you watching us on Instagram, please, you're also welcome to participate in the conversation. Although your comments don't appear directly on our StreamYard, I will keep an eye on the channel to make sure that if you have any questions or comments for our guest today, that she is aware of them and we can bring them up in the conversation. Today, as I mentioned, it is Anal Cancer Awareness Day. And for those of you who have been following my journey over the last 13 years of having a show, I am an anal cancer survivor. I was diagnosed on May 5th, 2015, and have become a spokesperson, an ambassador, an advocate for anal cancer awareness, as much as a community as whole, but specifically for Latino men and gay men. So if you are a Latino man or a gay man and are intimidated, don't know where to ask for information, don't know how to even start the conversation with your doctors, please reach out and I will make sure to put my information at the end of the show so you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to guide you in any direction that I can. Let me talk about my guest today. I'm very excited. And I want to, before she comes out, I want to thank her because she was referred to me by a friend, and we'll talk about him in a minute. And she didn't know me, she didn't know the show, but she agreed to come on the show and talk to me. And we've been chatting pre-show, and she is so cool. Shelley Flanagan is an avid traveler and outdoor enthusiast who was diagnosed with anal cancer. After navigating the physical and emotional challenges of treatment, she emerged with a deeper perspective on resilience, healing, and self-advocacy. Having worked through PTSD and fear of recurrence, she openly shares their journey. They openly share their journey, to help others facing similar diagnosis, break the stigma around anal cancer, and encourage open conversations about survivorship. When not speaking about her experience, she can be found hiking remote trails, embarking on international adventures with her husband, or spending time with her grandson, Dominic. With that, let me bring her on. And Shelley, hi, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
My pleasure. Thank you. I guess I mentioned before I want to shout out to Ryan Culberson, who I met through Men Up to Cancer. Mm-hmm. And we talk about Men Up to Cancer a lot here, so I'm just going to give them a quick shout out before we continue so people know. Men Up to Cancer is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping men avoid isolation during their cancer journeys. They offer peer-to-peer support and annual retreat, chemo backpack program, and local chapters. They're all geared toward improving the quality of life of their members and changing the way men go through cancer. And let me remove that so that you folks can see the website. So go menuptocancer.org for more information. But we do want to thank Ryan, who as soon as I put it out that I was looking for somebody to talk about anal cancer, he was like, I think I got somebody for you. And so Ryan Culberson, if you're watching, thank you so much for connecting us. Let me just start before we get into that. What made you agree to do this even before knowing me or?
Because I have told myself that if the universe puts an opportunity in front of me to help another person, then I'll take that opportunity.
Excellent.
So when Ryan reached out to me, it was, just a given that I would do it. So
nice. Well, I'm glad the universe pushed me towards you to ask you. Appreciate it. I also want to, for those of you that saw the announcement, I have a bunch of things that with Shelley. I was like, I need to show this. I want to show the full picture. She sent me a really cool picture, but I can only use her face on the announcement. But I want to show the whole picture because you look so cool in this picture. So this is her. Can you tell us where this is?
I believe that was in Slovenia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Such a cool picture.
I'm pretty sure that that's where that, I've done a lot of traveling. But I believe that was Slovenia. Yeah.
Cool. So I just want to make sure that people saw the full photo because somebody that messaged me and they're like, why is it cut off? And I'm like, because I want people to see their faces.
Yeah.
But
I don't have
like,
a lot of up close because it's usually we're out somewhere beautiful and you want to get the whole
thing.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to stop chatting and go ahead and ask Shelley Flanagan, tell us how you put it together.
All right. So I was diagnosed with stage 4 anal cancer in December of 2020. And the reason why it's stage 4 is it had metastasized through about 30 lymph nodes from my groin area up my spine up to my clavicle area. But I'm going to back up because I think it's really important that people are in tune with their bodies and don't push things aside because there's a reason why when I finally got diagnosed, I was a stage 4. Probably a year and a half to 2 years before my formal diagnosis, I developed what I thought were hemorrhoids. Now, hindsight, as they say, right? I probably should have gone to the doctors then because I had never suffered from hemorrhoids before. But I didn't. I was busy in life. At the time, I was packing up my house in Santa Clara, California, because my husband and I had decided that we were going to hit the road in an RV and travel the country, going to all the national parks. At that time, there was 50 national parks. We had been wanting to do this forever. We're like, why are we waiting? My husband quit his job. Mine, I could work remotely. And so I was busy packing up this house. So I ignored it. I thought it's hemorrhoids. I'm not going to run to the doctor. And they came and went. We hit the road. And at one point, they didn't come and go. They stayed. I still just thinking it's hemorrhoids. I then probably, I want to say maybe June of 2020, felt a lymph node in my groin area. And I went to my husband. I'm like, feel this. And he's like, oh, no, I get those. That's okay. And again, in my mind, I was thinking, I don't know, we got caught up in COVID, ended up coming back to San Diego where our grandson and daughter are. My husband goes back to work. We get health insurance. I go to the doctor for my exam and healthy, no medications whatsoever. I have been hiking all over the country. I'm a personal trainer by profession. Health has always been upmost in my list. And so she's like, yeah, no, you look great. And, and I'm like, okay, well, I have this hemorrhoid that won't go away. So I want that addressed. And I have this lymph node here. And she's like, okay, change into a gown and I'll come back. And so I changed into my gown. She walked in, but she walked in with another doctor. And the minute I looked at them, I knew. And they, examined me. And then they found this lymph node up here, which I didn't know. And they're like, yeah, we need to do blood work and we need to have you have a CAT scan. And so they knew like instantly that it was something other than hemorrhoids. And obviously what it was tumors. So that started the journey. I was in the middle of COVID, did the CAT scan, did the PET scan, did the biopsies, got my diagnosis. I started chemotherapy in January of that year, and underwent 4 rounds of chemotherapy and 30 rounds of radiation. And I was declared NED, which in the cancer world, if you don't know, is no evidence of disease. They don't really call it remission anymore. That was in April of 2021. Interestingly, at that appointment when they told me, yeah, it's all gone, I asked, well, what's my prognosis? And she said, probably 18 months to 2 years. And I'm like, because of recurrence. So they gave me a life expectancy of 18 months to 2 years. I'm happy to say I just had a CAT scan a week ago, 2 weeks ago. It's still clear, and I'm going on 4 years. So.
Disclaimer, folks. She made it.
But that leads, that set off a whole, going through treatment, as you know, is brutal, and all the things that it does to your body. But that set off the whole fear of reoccurrence. So that is something that I've been dealing with, since that celebration.
Before we continue more, I forgot to bring this one up, and I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page with information. I'm going to give you a little information. Anal cancer is a rare type of cancer that develops in the tissue of the anus, the opening at the end of the digestive tract. It often presents symptoms such as rectal bleeding, pain, or a lump near the anus. Risk factors include human papilloma, which is HPV infection, smoking, and a history of anal wart. Early detection and treatment, which may involve radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery, can significantly improve the outcomes. So I want to make sure that everybody knows what anal cancer is, because sometimes we get colorectal cancer, colon cancer, we get lumped up in the same group, and it's not the same thing. So it's
not. It's the placement of where the tumor develops, but it's also, as you said, I want to say like 86%. I may be a little bit off on that. Is caused by HPV.
And because you brought something up about symptoms, and we get misdiagnosed because the symptoms can be so related to other things. That's if a doctor doesn't cue in, or they're not a specialist, they won't go in. No pun intended. No, they won't go in deeper and research what's going on. Yeah, and there's just so much that I learned about it that I didn't know. There's just so much. My head's like, yeah. So the whole, like HPV, I don't know, Daniel, if you know the percentage of people who are walking around with that. So normally it's very common. Yeah. It can be skin to skin. It doesn't have to be sexual. It can, skin to skin. They now have a vaccine. Thank you for it. But obviously I'm 58. They didn't back in my time. And what's strange is that I've obviously had pap smears, throughout my life that never came back positive. So it's a really strange virus. It can not be detected and then come back from your exposure 20 years later. It's very, different virus that I really didn't understand. And, even at the time when they diagnosed me as having the anal cancer, they tested me and I wasn't HPV positive. And it's like, well, how can I not be? It's very confusing. But I'm a big advocate to people getting their vaccinations on that, because it's really not something you want to mess with, for sure. We have a first question. I just want to make sure that we talk before we move on from HPV. So the first question is, what type of tests do they need to do to see if one has HPV? And
if one has HPV, you get it when you have your annual exam. They can do for females, they do, with part of your pap smear, they do a culture, but they also can do the same thing with your anus. Yeah. They do a swab.
And I didn't put up the tab on here, but All of Us Research, which is a program that I'm an ambassador for, If you do a DNA testing, that it can come up in your DNA test. So for those of you, if you have, there's All of Us, there's the Count Me In program. There's several different organizations that do free DNA testing where they would do the research for you. But as Shelley said, I'm also 45 is I believe the cutoff time.
So yeah, so I think it may be a little bit older now. They may be pushing the age out. Someone asked if you over 11, you can get it now up to, I want to say mid 40s. But my doctor, I said, well, I know. So I was diagnosed, I was 44. And after I was done treatment, I'm like, well, I want the vaccine. And she's like, whatever, go ahead, have it. I mean, it's not going to hurt you, So I think if you push it, then I would do that. But also, if if you're not diagnosed with this, pay out of pocket to get it. And it's funny because my daughter, who's now 36, she had reminded me that when she was a teenager, when they first came out with it, she goes, yeah, you paid for it out of pocket. I didn't even remember that. I'm so glad I did that, and that although insurance wasn't covering it back then, that I paid for her to get it and I paid out of pocket. So, I mean, for me, it's there's no money that's going to, I'm stage 4 cancer. You know what I mean? I would paid a lot to have that choice back then.
And for those of you watching, I'm sure you remember it wasn't too long ago that the commercials were running for young boys and young girls to get the HPV vaccine.
Yeah, have your boys vaccinated too, for sure. Yeah.
And then before we move on, is the virus can also cause, yes. So I've been looking up information because there was some information that I didn't know. And certain types of HPV cause warts, genital warts, and other type of warts on the skin. So yes, HPV can cause warts. So pay attention. Yeah. So if you're still in the age where you can go get the vaccine and you have not had cancer, we're not doctors. Let me specify. We are not doctors. We cannot advise you, but is it something we can suggest? Yes, go talk to your doctor and ask them.
Like I said, I mean, in my opinion, even knowing what I know now, if I had to pay for it out of pocket, I think it's a 2-series shot. I would have paid for it out of pocket. Yeah. Yeah.
So please speak to your doctors about all this. Now that you know the information, now that you know it from us, go do your research. But thank you for. By the way, that's a Christian, my partner. So he's asking us.
Oh, okay.
Christian, we were just talking about you in the pre-interview. So thank you for joining us. So continue.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I was. So I went through my treatment. So after that, I really was just left with trying to build my body back because treatment was really tough. I lost, probably 25 pounds. I had lost all my muscle. It ravished my body. So I just focused on that. But then, the biggest thing has been, and I knew how to do that though, because that was what I did for a living. Right. So the biggest thing for me has been the mental recovery from this, from going from someone who was so active. I wouldn't even take an aspirin. I didn't eat processed foods. I wouldn't get a flu shot because God forbid I put poison in my body. I was just, everything was holistic. And then I get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Everybody's like, of all people, I'm like, yeah. So it really just was a big mind shift for me.
So let me, because you brought up two sides of, so for people who follow the show know me, I'm a Reiki master energy worker, and I'm very big on helping my clients. I'm a spiritual coach as well, so I help them with their mind, body, and spirit. I'm like, you need to be aligned mind, body, and spirit, which is something that I was not. I thought I was when I was diagnosed, but then I realized very quickly I was not as aligned because I didn't know about anal cancer and my body was not ready for the shock. I don't think anybody is. I don't think that physically no matter how much you learn, your body is like, hey, wait, I've got a surprise for you. So spiritually, did you have did the doctors give you all the information that you needed to take care of your body so that your spirit was ready for it?
Well, I mean, I was a Christian. Um, I think that maybe my views now are more global than that. Um, so I think more of the universe or the source than maybe one particular God. But that came through, I think, my treatment. No, this is one thing that was different for me was that when I was diagnosed, we were in the middle of COVID. So I had to do my treatment by myself. When I would go in for, my infusions and that, I couldn't have anybody with me. Obviously my radiation and that. So it was very isolated. And one thing that I think that Kaiser, although I love Kaiser and they were great, they could have done better, is that they could have maybe had a sheet of paper that said, these are all the services that that are available to you. And that didn't happen. So I kind of had to piecemeal things together as I went along. Like immediately they should have said, you need to start therapy. Right? Immediately should have been, here are some support groups. Here is a place where you can get a wig if you so choose. Here is a place that will supply your family with meals, that you can set up a meal delivery. There are so many resources out there. And not only, as you know, just with Kaiser, but with the whole community. There are so many groups and organizations that are there to give you a helping hand that you may not be aware of, and you're so overwhelmed. I mean, I was so overwhelmed because I was so taken back. And again, we're all dealing with COVID, right? In the midst of this, on top of this. And yeah, I was just so overwhelmed that it was hard to know.
I'm trying to imagine because just a little side story. When I was going to radiation, and for those of you, I'm here, you folks know me, I'm here in Southern California, Laguna Beach. So I was going to Hogue for radiation, and there was a gentleman that would come in by himself every morning. And then where I was, you would walk out of the locker room or waiting room, and somebody would walk in. It was so finely timed that you had like a split second to say hi to somebody. But I was always early and waited longer, and he was always early. So we always had this, but he was going through everything by himself. And I was so fortunate to have my partner and friends who would, but I cannot imagine sitting through chemo or radiation.
8 hours and sitting in a chemo lab by yourself,
And for those of you that have never been through something like this, I don't know if it was for you, but as that liquid goes through your body, I could taste it. You can feel it. And then chemo brain. And then I don't know about you, but mortality thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
And the conversations with, I was raised Catholic, and I still believe in my God and in the universe, but it's having conversations with God and the universe and the bargaining part of it. And so, oh man, I mean,
it's a lot. You're having this medicine that, had I not had it, I don't believe I'd be sitting here. But yet this medicine that is saving your life is also making you very sick, and is killing off a lot of things, not just the cancer. It was difficult for me because I had become with such a holistic background. So a lot of the groups and everything I belonged to, a lot of the feedback I got was, oh, you shouldn't get chemotherapy. Don't do the chemotherapy because that's poison. That's going to, drink this tea, eat these seeds. That will cure it, And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Thankfully, I had enough, that I wasn't so far into that wellness bubble that I'm like, yeah, no. Although I did do acupuncture, I did do Reiki, I did do meditation. I did do, I did a lot of other holistic things that I know are good for you.
Yeah.
Movement, my diet, sauna, so I did incorporate a lot of those things, but I was not under the impression that doing these things was going to save my life if I did not have the conventional treatment that was available to me.
Yeah, I got, because I started a video blog the day I was diagnosed. And again, people who know me, I do stand-up comedy, and I introduce a lot of my health issues into the comedy to make light of it. So, the day that I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo, I was diagnosed on May 5th. And I immediately started a video blog. It's about a 30-day video blog. And you can see the changes physically that are happening.
Yeah.
So people who were following me then were very involved in my treatment. So I got some oils sent. I got some teas sent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you drink this, and if you drink this while you're praying to God in the dark in water,
circle 3 times. And
yeah. I'm like, where's the chicken so I can do the sacrifice? and I was like, oh, thank you.
I mean, people mean well, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I never said no. That's how, I was like, thank you. I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate your good vibes. Some of them I would go to my nutritionist and be like, she's like, no, don't
do that now. Yeah. Yes.
But,
you're gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm also glad somebody else. Yeah, I'm glad somebody else mentioned this. So for people out there too, I was given 40 rounds of hyperbaric chamber treatment, so oxygen treatment.
Yeah.
Post.
Really, I would have done that too, but it's really expensive.
Yeah. I was very fortunate that my doctor sent it up and my insurance accepted it. So nice. I got 40 rounds of it, which is what I think the hair growth coming back and a lot of things. So for those of you out there, it is not a guarantee, but if your doctor approve it and your insurance approves it, do it. Do it. It really helps.
Yeah. I think, the combination of things, as long as, like you said, your doctor says, obviously there's some things you can't do while you're having chemotherapy because it may interfere with how the drugs work. So you do have to you have to have a good relationship with your oncologist, and you have to be honest and not, do this thing behind their back or whatever, because their goal is to help you survive, obviously, as well. But I lost my train of thought again about, there was something that you had said that, so I also, because I had a very large online community, I started going on live Facebook every day and sharing my journey. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, and Daniel, you and I spoke about this, is that there is so much stigma towards anal cancer in particular. And it's because of the body part. So because people don't want to say anus, or they're confused on how you could get anal cancer, maybe. I'm not sure what the stigma is. I guess maybe there's stigma about bowel movements. It's something that, as an uptight country, I guess, that we don't want to talk about it. So that's one thing I noticed. And what I had said was like, I want to help as many people as I can as I go through this journey. And that means you need to pay attention to these things. Don't be like me. Don't ignore, hemorrhoids. Don't get your colonoscopies. People don't want to do that, and they don't want to talk about it, but yet you'll go in and get your ears checked. It's a body part. We all have it. You know what I mean? It serves a purpose. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And, so that I kind of made that my goal, and I didn't shy away from, I didn't call it colorectal cancer. People ask me what kind of cancer. I said, I have anus cancer. That's what I have, and I think it's important to bring attention to that, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, any different than if you had breast cancer or lung cancer.
Yeah.
So.
As, the conversation, for those of you, the conversations in the pre-interview before we start the show, we have about 15 minutes, is that I was trying to post the show on LinkedIn and it kept rejecting it. And I was wondering, like, why is it not accepting it? Because it accepts every other show. And then I realized, and when I took the anal part of the title, it accepted it. So it just made it Cancer Thriver. And I was like, oh, but I'm with you. As I mentioned early, coming from the Latino community, where the macho, I'm not going to go get an anal check. And in the gay community, where people who are submissive or bottoms, the anus is part of the sexual activity. And it's very, who wants to know that you can't use it anymore?
Yeah. I want to interject a little bit there, because this was one thing that I didn't realize, and my colorectal doctor brought to my attention, is that the majority of people who are diagnosed with anal cancer are actually white females.
Oh, wow.
So people think that it's connected to the homosexual community. It is not.
Yep.
It's more white females.
And as you were talking about being diagnosed and symptoms, I was told at some point that I was like basically too Mexican and I had to watch my diet, or I was too gay and I had to watch my sex. And I was like, it's not those. So,
no.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be transmitted through sexual activity. It can be skin to skin. Yeah. So, which is why, it could be, how about throat cancer, or, there's different ways. And so when it shows up in your cervix, it shows up as cervical cancer, the HPV. Yeah. So, so just because of where it presents itself doesn't necessarily, people get lung cancer who have never smoked.
Right.
So it's very misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I did too. I mean, not that I had spent a lot of time thinking about it, but when I was like, how did I get this? That doesn't add up. And then as I learned more, I'm like, oh, okay, well.
When I was diagnosed, I was 14 years living with HIV. And in those 14 years, I had never heard about anal cancer, or the fact that there's about 25 different cancers that affect people living with HIV, 35% more. Were you told, or did anybody talk to you about how treatment, how after would affect your relationship with your husband?
No. Again, I kind of had to, and I don't necessarily fault Kaiser. I kind of fault where we were in the world with COVID. I really had to piece things together. So I got, as soon as I realized I was able to, I got into therapy. It took me like 3 therapists to find someone who I finally connected with. And then I got into the support group, which is where I met Ryan. And that was probably the most helpful thing for me, was that support group. And of course, we met online because of COVID. I also joined several support group, anal cancer specific groups on Facebook. So I did a lot of reading, and so that helped me a lot, because I would see side effects that maybe hadn't quite yet hit me yet, but I could expect that may how the treatment was going to go, so I would be better prepared for, side effects, diapers, burns, treatments. So I learned a lot, maybe more that way, as to what to expect. And then I think it does affect your relationship, obviously. Obviously, I can't speak as a gay male, but as a female, it affects your vagina because of the radiation. So you have to use tools because your tissues contract. So in order to keep your vagina open, you have to use what's called a dilator. So that you can have sexual intercourse at some point again. For me, it put me into menopause because of the chemo and radiation. So I had to deal with that. And just emotionally, going from Patrick and I had a relationship that was so active, hiking and traveling, to me just wasting away. And I have 12 steps in my house. I couldn't even walk up the 12 steps. I was so weak. So, thankfully, as you said, your husband is just a wonderful support. Thankfully, Patrick was a wonderful support too.
I brought up this question just saying, because it kind of fits into what you're talking about right now. It's like things that we learned the hard way as we're going through treatment that nobody talks about.
Yeah. They were like, when I asked about, the dilators, they were, oh yeah, we have them, but again, it was kind of like I had to piecemeal things together. That's why I think the groups are really helpful, because, especially ones that are specific towards your cancer, because people share this stuff. And so you're like, oh, okay, this is this and this and this. But in my case, it was a little bit different. And again, I don't know if it was because of COVID. It was a rough time in the world. So I kind of give them the benefit of doubt that it was probably more towards that. But, other things about resources, I would highly recommend that you get it as soon as you're diagnosed, if you're not already in therapy, although I think everybody should be in therapy. Don't wait for something like this. Find yourself a therapist. Again, it may take a few different counselors before you find one that you can really, confide in. Don't expect that the first one you match up with is going to be like, oh yeah, this is great. It may be, but don't expect that. Support groups, those groups that are specific towards your type of cancer. Kaiser also works with the YMCA, or I don't know if it's just Kaiser. Actually, I think it's Any Cancer, which is the cyclist. What's the cyclist who had Lance Armstrong has a program, a grant, where if you're cancer diagnosed, you can do free personal training for a certain length of time. Highly recommend that. Live Strong is called the Live Strong program. And just really, lean on people. I, as I said, I would go on Facebook Live, and I had this whole group of people from high school to all, to all different stages of my life. But my high school friends had T-shirts and sweatshirts made up for me. Shelley Strong, they raised money for me for my alternative treatments. They were just so helpful and supportive. And they'd send me gifts every day and cards. And it was just really, it's good to have a community.
Yeah.
So especially with this diagnosis, if you're not honest about it, people can't support you.
Yeah. And you're, as you mentioned, friendships are definitely, and I think this is for cancer across the board, not just anal cancer, but I think friendships are, it's like oil and water. The oil will rise. Like
you're going to weed out some people.
Yeah.
And it's not only friends, it will also be family. Yeah. You spoke about the spiritual thing, aspect of it. For me, when I was diagnosed, it was a reevaluation of all aspects of me as a being. So physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you kind of, when you're facing death, you kind of reassess a lot of things. And a lot of things come up that maybe you didn't, which is why therapy is really helpful, that maybe you didn't realize were really impacting you severely. So yes, I have had a lot closer relationship with people that I hadn't before, and I have lost relationships with people.
Yeah.
including family members.
Yeah. Some of the closest friends for me did not make it past the diagnosis.
Yeah.
And people that I was only like work friends or people that I was just Facebook connected would find out where we also had and I'll give some tips before we leave, but they would go to my wish list on Amazon and all of a sudden we just get a package from
Nice.
random people. And you're like, and then those became like closer friends.
Yeah.
In the long run. So,
Yeah.
and as we were talking, just to make sure that everybody knows, as we were talking, I was showing some of the groups. This is a Facebook group, Anal Cancer Support, which both Shelley and I belong to. But there's also the Anal Cancer Stage 4 Support Group. There is the No More Anal Cancer Group. These are both on Facebook. And if you're part of Kaiser, Kaiser has a cancer support groups, which Shelley just mentioned before we started, that there's also a caregiver support group.
Kaiser. So the group I belong to is a general cancer. So it's all kinds of cancer, but it also includes the caregivers.
So if you have a Kaiser and you are a cancer, either going through or survivor, please reach out to them. And if you're a caregiver and you are on Kaiser, please reach out to them and find out. We have one more question from Christian, and I want to make sure that I address it. So he said, one can get HPV from a kiss, but will it reveal as anal cancer or colorectal cancer? I had to look that one up just to make sure. And the answer is a kiss itself is unlikely to transmit HPV and therefore cause anal cancer. But if it does result in transmission, it is unlikely to spread through sexual contact. It is unlikely to be the primary cause of anal cancer. So, again, we're not doctors.
No, I think when I mentioned that, I was mentioning throat.
Yeah.
But it can be, so HPV doesn't only show up as anal cancer. It can show up as throat cancer. It can show up as cervical cancer. Can show up as anal cancer. Yeah. So HPV is not just unique to anal cancer.
Although it's the most known, it is not the only target. I feel like HPV's vacation spot is the anus, but it's not the only place it goes to. So just
no, and and the other thing I think that was a lot of these were just, and maybe some of these have been addressed over the years. Another thing I think it was connected to was AIDS. That people thought if you had anal cancer, that it's because you have AIDS, and that's not necessarily true. I don't. So, there's just so many misconceptions about how you can catch it. It's not only through anal sex is the bottom line. It's not.
And as usual here on the show, we always
can be through that, but it's not. Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it's not period. That's not.
Yeah, it's not. This is how it's transmitted. There are other avenues, And
as usual, we recommend always go to the doctor. Now that you're learning a little more on the show, next time you have a doctor's visit, if you have any suspicion that you might have HPV or that something might come up, any symptoms, please bring them to your doctor.
And I think HPV though, there's no symptoms. So
that's the thing. Yeah. No, I mean symptoms for like anal cancer. Like if you feel that it's not hemorrhoids, that it's not just irritation or your diet, bring it up. Basically, I guess the joke would be get your head out of your butt and talk about your butt.
Yeah. Just don't ignore these things out of embarrassment, out of some stigma that you feel there may be. Your life isn't worth. Who gives a shit what other people think, for starters? You know what I mean? It's like, whatever.
Literally, it's your ass on the line. So bring it up.
Yeah. And speaking of shit, actually, we should discuss, obviously, if you have any change in bowel movement, and it doesn't necessarily, have to be all of a sudden having, looser stools. It could be the opposite. You could all of a sudden you could be constipated. In my case, of course, because of the tumors, they were smaller, right? Because my opening was smaller because of the tumors. So you just really need to be in tune with your body. And if something doesn't seem right, just go to the doctors, have it checked out.
Yeah, that was my case. It was just a change
Yeah.
and painful and bleeding. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter what diet I changed or how many diuretics I took, it just
Yeah.
wasn't helping. And
Yeah.
at that point, it was, and this is one suggestion I do with people I talk to. At that point, it was like, there is something going on, and it's not because I'm eating fried food, and it's not because I'm having sex. We need to look at this more. So
Yeah.
please speak up to your doctors.
Yeah. Be aware what's normal for you. I mean, we all have, different bowel movement habits or whatever, but something that is a change for you. And so even if the doctor's like, well, yeah, that's no big deal. Well, no, it is, because it's different for me.
Yeah. So this is the part of the show where at 15 minutes to the end and where we shared some words of wisdom. So Shelley, what words of wisdom do you have for the audience?
Well, I think what I made notes on is, what got me through, I think, this journey. And so I did have great support with my husband, was humor, especially going through treatment where it's really, there's no good cancer, so let's not joke and say there is, but, losing control of your bowel movements, there's just a lot that goes on with this type of cancer, and just having a sense of humor about it. Even like, he'd take me for a walk. And I mean, I was hunched over. I mean, I aged like 50 years in a matter of months, is what it felt like from where I came to where I ended up. And he would be like, all right, come on, Grammy, and just laughing about it, because I mean, what else is there? I mean, there's some dark days, and you just need to laugh about some of this stuff. Gratitude, just really focusing every day on something to be grateful for. And, sometimes that was the fact that I didn't have an accident,
Yeah.
Other times it was just a beautiful daisy I would see when I was sitting out back, but really, and being very conscious about, I am grateful for this, because in my opinion, the more you look for things to be grateful for, the more you're going to see them. And
go ahead, sorry.
No, and I was just going to say, the opposite is true. The more, if you want to look for something bad, you're going to see something bad. So just focusing on the positive and on being grateful. And because in my darkest days, and some of them were really dark, there was always something to be thankful for. Always.
I'm so glad that Christian is watching and that you brought up humor. That kept us going when we went to our first, because I had the pump with the porta-cat, and the first visit, we were making butt jokes and we were just laughing. I'm always making butt jokes. Yeah. I tell people, anal cancer gave me the right to make a butt joke in the most inappropriate place because I earned it. I get to do it. And
my husband and I say we're like middle school boys. So I get it. I get it.
We're so going to get together for food one day. And we were in chemo, and a big shout out to Keck, USC, which is where I went for my treatment. And we were making butt jokes. And the nurse who was the one that did it the first time, she was also the one that took up the pump at the end. And she came up and she's like, I'm so glad that you two are laughing right now. She's like, if you can laugh to treatment and everything that's going to come, you will make it to the end. Yeah. And you will survive this. And on my first day of treatment, I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo, and my last day of chemo was 4th of July of that same year. Mm-hmm. So we go in and we're laughing, and it's the same nurse that came and took the pump off, and we were still laughing. A friend of us was with us, and she recognized us. If you see us together, you recognize us. She's like, I'm so glad you're still laughing. She goes, this is going to make it so easy for you to get over. It's like there's nothing you can't survive now once you come to this. And we still to this day laugh about butt stuff because it's just funny.
So do I.
Yeah, I'm so glad you talk about that.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, I do want to because there's something we talked about in the pre that I thought it was so important, because it's very few people that I meet that have that mentality as I do, that there is a moment that where you're like, I don't want to talk about cancer. Like that is not my only
Identity.
That's not the most interesting thing about me.
Right. Yeah. That kind of goes into like, so protecting your peace. So that's something else that I would recommend that you're very conscious of as you go through the journey, is protecting your peace and realizing those people that you maybe need to let go and those people you need to draw closer. But when you're going through this journey, it's all consuming. It's basically takes up every waking moment in your mind. At least it did for me, speaking from my experience. I have cancer. I can't believe I have cancer. How did I get cancer? When was I exposed? When was this? How did I, am I going to see my grandson graduate from high school? Am I going to see future grandbabies? Am I, what if Patrick gets remarried? Just all this going through your head. Who do I need to make amends to? What do I believe in afterlife? And I was lucky enough that we have a personal friend who's an oncologist, not my oncologist, but a oncologist. And when I was told that I no longer had any active cancer, but yet I had 18 months to 2 years to live, it was I'm going to drop the F-bomb because I say that a lot. It was such a mind fuck. And I was like, how can I even celebrate? Because now I'm they're still telling me I have this death sentence. And he came over. It was during COVID again. So we're in the backyard, social distancing, the whole bit. And he told me, he said, Shelley, right now, every day you wake up, your first thought's going to be, oh my God, what if this comes back? But the further you get away from your treatment and your diagnosis, you're going to find you go a couple days and you don't think about it. And then eventually, it may be only when you're going to get your surveillance done, your surveillance test done. It's not going to be all consuming. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, right, But at 4 years out, I now find that. And it used to be like, of course, when you don't have hair, it's harder to hide that maybe you're going through something, right? But like we would go, I can remember our first trip after, went to Chile after when I was recovered. And my hair was short because it was just growing back. And it's hard to explain, but you almost feel like the need to tell people what you've been through. So you're almost looking for the opportunity to say, I just went through cancer treatment, and to share with them. And it's such an emotional part of it. It is a part of you. And I found that I don't think I did this intentionally, but it would find a way to come up in any conversation that I had. And as I've moved further away from it, I have found myself not wanting to bring it up, and I meet new people, not even wanting to tell them what I've been through. And part of that is a struggle, because part of it feels like I pride myself on being authentic. So I don't want to be disingenuous or not seem authentic, but find myself now, I'm like, okay, do I really need to bring this up? Like our last trip, we were in New Zealand, and there was a lady working out in the gym where I was working out. And she was telling me how she had ripped a hamstring muscle, and she was coming back from recovery and how hard it was. I know personally how hard it is to come back, right? But I didn't have an injury like that. And I consciously said, I'm not going to mention this. I'm just going to encourage her. You're doing the right thing. Just do a little bit more each time. But I consciously did not tell her of my journey. And it felt good. Because I don't want that to be my identity. However, as I said in the beginning, if the universe puts me in a situation where the source feels that I need to share my story to help someone, then I don't want to shy away from that either. So I am trying to, my therapy, now I'm only 4 times a year. It used to be every week. My support group, I'm backing off that. But I'm still making myself available to help anybody who wants to help if they come to me. But I'm not leading with that anymore, if that makes sense.
Totally. And again, a big shout out to Ryan Culberson for connecting us. And I so appreciate you coming on. And I wholeheartedly, like, it was so, I'm not going to cry, Shelley, but it was so good to hear you say that, because I work, and I'll mention our organization in a minute, but I work for an organization where we work with people with cancer history. And it's part of my job now to do that. But when I meet people outside of work and I'm just connecting, I do my best to not bring it up. It's not, because we mentioned in your bio of PTSD, and that is such a real thing too. I was diagnosed with health-related PTSD in 2018. I never knew that existed. I didn't know it was a thing until it was brought up to my attention. I researched and I was like, yes. And I feel that in the beginning, like you, like it would just come up. I feel like it was a way for me to let go of the pain that I went through to treatment. And there was a point where the pain was replaced with faith and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have to let go of that. There wasn't any more pain to share. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, your therapist can help you with this. You don't need to share it anymore. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to. I didn't have to feel guilty about that. Does that make sense?
I'm so glad you said that, because I think I had a Reiki treatment. I don't know how many years out, but she said to me, "You're safe. You're okay." And I don't want to start crying either. And that's the thing about reoccurrence. The fear of reoccurrence is that you're waiting for that other shoe to drop. You know, I'm like, oh, geez, I don't think I can go through this again. You know, and realizing you're okay. And there was a saying that I used to say, and I'm going to swear again, so you'll have to believe it. But you say, "Not today, motherfucker, not today." So, not today, cancer. Not today. And I'm not going to have you steal the joy of today, because today I'm okay. I'm okay.
I am so grateful that you showed to be here with me today and to talk about this. For those of you, we are chatting. We're almost down to the end of the show. Shelley Flanagan, anal cancer thriver. If you want more information, make sure that you check out some of these organizations. Anal Cancer Support, which is on Facebook. Anal Cancer Stage 4 also support, also on Facebook. No More Anal Cancer, Facebook. Or if you're part of Kaiser, go check out Kaiser Cancer Support Groups. Just Google that or put that in your search engine and the page will come up. You can get more information. If you are looking to connect with other people with anal and colorectal cancer, I work for Chica Charity. We aim to create a safe and inclusive space for LGBTQ plus individuals and underserved communities facing colorectal and anal cancer. You can email me at danielggarza@chicacharity.org. My work number is 951-708-0989, or check out chicacharity.org for more information to find out what we're up to, or if you want to donate to our organization. We always accept donations. We are going to be at Pride events, health fairs, conferences throughout the year. So if you see us, make sure you stop by and say hello and get more information. I will stay in touch with Shelley. So if you are watching this on replay and have more questions, comments, thoughts, I will make sure I get those to her. Otherwise, Shelley, any last thoughts, any last comments before we head out?
The only thing that just came to mind was anal. And
that's awesome. Well, I so look forward to getting to meet you in person. We're not that far away from each other, so I see tacos in our future.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
I'm going to put you in the green room for a second, but don't go anywhere. I'll be right back for you.
All right.
Again, thank you to our guest today, Shelley, for talking to us. For those of you that are not familiar with Little Mexican Productions, We are a live stream show. We are self-funded, so any donations to the show are welcome. Remember, on Mondays, we have the Crab and Goat Show, which is a spiritual show. We do spiritual messagings, alignment sessions, which is a life coaching session, and card reading. So join us every Monday at 5 p.m. with my co-host, Richard Wayne Kilgo II. On Wednesdays, it's the Christian and Daniel Show with my partner who has been commenting. Those are at 6 o'clock every Wednesday night. And on Saturday mornings, which will be tomorrow, put it together a live stream, which is our regular show, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. We have a filmmaker tomorrow. Todd is coming over to talk about us. He has directed several really cool movies. If you want to know about him, join us. And on Fridays, starting in April, Chica Charities is launching its own live stream show. So this show on Fridays will be part of Chica Charities. So we're going to launch an all cancer awareness type show. So if you are a cancer survivor, thriver, if you're going through the journey, if you're a caregiver, you want to share your story associated with cancer, please reach out to me and we will make sure to put you on the show. Also, we have our Grumpy Bunny book, So Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. If you are looking for a guided meditation book for children, these are $20, includes delivery. All you got to do is go to limitedproductions.com, look for Grumpy Bunny, and you can order from there. These, if you order online, they come with a collector's pin, lapel pin, and a sticker. Or if you're in the Southern California area, it's available at Awakenings and Visions and Dreams, and you can go there and get it. But if you get it there, you don't get the pin. You have to order from me. So for now, I want to thank Shelley again for being part of the show. Thank you for joining us. If you have any more questions, comments, please make sure you get them to me, and I'll make sure to get them to her. For now, I want to thank everybody for watching us. I'm Daniel G. Garza saying, hey, put it together. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.